Welcome to Monday. Dojo, Crypto Dojo is what we're calling it. Although you're allowed to traverse the bounds of that because crypto is energy after all. Everybody can hear me, I assume. Everything's good.
You sound good.
Great. And super duper. I might be a little bit jumpy right now because I'm just uploading the MP3 to the podcast for today's episode. So that is at 73%, 75%. So if it is slow, that will end very, very shortly here. And yeah, let's see who's in the room so I can get a feel for
You have a lot of new members too.
the crowd here.
So hi, everybody.
Yeah, there's definitely some people I have not recognized yet. So great. If you missed today's show, I just lost a third of an ether. I donated it. I'm working on that. I donated it, so I didn't lose it. I freely chose to give it away. I made the decision in the future, and I gave it away before the future decision had been made. See, it's complicated, but that's what's going on. I've been playing with DeFi lately, and it's a brutal mistress. And real quick, DeFi is basically it's basically gambling. Like there's like an energy part of it that's like a lot of gambling, and but I mean really, even the dollar is to a degree, but it's decentralized finance, and it's one of the more popular things that's happening with crypto right now. One of those projects is called DeFi Kingdom, a project which I do recommend. A few of us are already in that project. And with DeFi Kingdom, you're able to go to the website, and if you have the right token, you can stake your tokens there, which is much like you going to a bank and saying, hey man, I'm going to put $100,000 in your bank because I'd like the cut of your jib, buddy. And so now the bank has that money and they're able to do things with it. And because DeFi is such a raging new field right now, people are desperate for you to come put your money in their bank. And one of those projects is called DeFi Kingdoms. It's a gamified, decentralized finance thing. And I use the word thing loosely because there's a lot of different versions of these. I'm just going to guess there's probably about 30 different DeFi projects out there right now. Most of those DeFi projects, because there's probably a lot more, but I'm saying you could probably only heard of about 30 of them. Most of those DeFi projects are forks of DAO. And if you've ever bought or seen a Winnebago, you know that a Winnebago is a fork of the Chevy 3300 chassis. That when Winnebago makes their vehicles, they go to Chevy and they say, we want the chassis, we want the transmission, we want all that stuff, but nothing else. That's the car we want. And so Winnebago buys those chassis and then they take them back to their factory and then they build the Winnebago on top of it. And that's basically what's happening with forks, that someone wrote some code a long time ago called Olympus DAO, and that code was so popular, it was such a good chassis, that companies like Winnebago have said, hey, I'm going to resell your chassis. And because of the way this works, they're able to take that same fork and add little whistles. Well, ours has a shower, and ours has satellite radio, things like that. And so right now, all these different Winnebagos are competing to see who will do well. And one of those Winnebagos is DeFi Kingdoms. However, I don't think that DeFi Kingdoms is actually running on the Chevy chassis. So forgive me, I just screwed up that analogy. They're just running on a different chassis is all. But DeFi Kingdoms happens to be the one that's probably the most like further along. And if you were to go to DeFi Kingdoms, the website, you would look at what's like a fantasy game, a real low poly, low bit game, and you go there and you do things. You can stake money in the bank. There's just like in finance, there's a lot of different ways of staking. And sometimes you'll stake on, um, so if you think about if you were in Brussels and that new bank that you're like, I like the cut of your jib, here's $100,000. That bank's going to be like, thanks, man. We're going to give you a free toaster every month. And you're like, hey, all right. But then on your way out, you notice that someone's talking about francs and you over here and you hear that this person's promising you 3 toasters if you don't just put your dollars in here, but you also find francs. If you go out and give us francs and dollars and bring them together and give them to us at the same time, you're giving us a liquidity pool that makes our bank look good. It gives us plumbing inside our Winnebago. And so we will give you not 1 toaster, but 2 or 3. And DeFi Kingdoms is kind of showing you how that works, that there's ways of DeFi of investing in different projects. One of which is liquidity pools. Another is just simply staking in the bank. When you stake something on a DeFi, typically you're getting interest. I say typically because not all chassis are made to produce interest, but most of the chassis you see out on the market right now are interest-bearing chassis. So what happens is that every 8 hours or every 12 hours or every 16 hours, that chassis is spitting money out. And if it's parked in your garage for 8 hours, little tokens will just pop out. And suddenly you'll have more tokens than you had before. Why? Because it's built into the chassis of that Chevy. It's just built into that. So by investing right now, you're earning a really high APY, much like the person that owns the mortgage on your home does. Now you're collecting on a compound interest scale. Those scales will change depending on the deal. What I've just told you about is extremely risky. I can think of at least 2 DAOs that I've heard about publicly that were had some thievery involved. They're calling those rug pools. I can tell you that the thievery that's happened has been thievery that has been more like what I would expect to be thievery. What I'm trying to explain is that the software itself, I've never seen anyone be able to really like hack that, break that. What the thievery you're looking at more is when someone will do something to the exchange, to the pawn shop, where you're able to change in these certain kinds of tokens, these new tokens that are coming up. One of which was a company called Snowbank, that they were running a DAO, and right before all of their investors decided they wanted to sell their stuff, they canceled the contract with Trader Joe, with the place where most people were buying tokens. When you're on a brand new chassis like this, you're only going to be able to get parts from a certain place. And that place in this case would be the broker, where you go to change your tokens from one type of currency to another. Much like when you land in an airport, you're like, well, honey, we need to go over to customs and trade these Dutch marks for sterling, right? It's the exact same concept. And that when you walk into that place to exchange your currency, you're going to expect them to have currency for you. And if you showed up and they're like, yeah, we'll trade your dollars, I just need you to sit here. What do you mean? Well, eventually someone's going to walk in and they're going to have German marks, and then I'll talk to you. That would never work. So you would need a staking pool, right? You would need some liquidity inside that exchange to make that happen. And those who are staking the liquidity are paid an interest because they're providing a service inside that Winnebago that makes other people come and say, I like this Winnebago. I would like to invest in this Winnebago. That's basically the gist of what DeFi is. DeFi Kingdoms is, they've gamified that entire approach. There's music, there's little graphics, there's stuff like that. I invested a while ago. I'm really, really stretched right now for cash because since the dip, I've really noticed what an addiction I have to buying into projects. When I see this dip happen, I get hungry and I extend myself and buy crypto that I should not have done. Energetically, I've hurt myself, and I'm feeling that now. And one of those ways was that as soon as DeFi Kingdom turned a profit for me, I had about a $500 profit on an $800 investment. I sold that I unstaked. I went into the bank and I said, hey, I was staking here. And they're like, yeah, we appreciate it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I need that money now. And they're like, but you're going to lose the toasters. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I need that money. And they gave me that money. And then I walked out on the street and I, uh, I threw it away. I did that. That was me. And I did that because I was trying to send it to another address. I made the mistake because DeFi Kingdoms, in my opinion, is one of the hardest DAOs that I've ever been a part of, because you had to translate your tokens into one token. And then once it's one token, you have to swap it for Jewel. I had to do these on these exchanges. Again, this is a very tiny project, which means you're only going to be able to find a few pawn shops that are carrying it, which is what makes it so risky. So what I'm telling you about is not even what I think decentralized autonomous organizations are. I'm telling you about the seediest new startups that I've seen. And one of those was a very obvious rug pull. Another one, maybe it just died. It could be that it wasn't really fraud. It just died, that you're looking at people that are constantly in competition with each other. About the largest one out right now is actually not the original. What I'm saying is that Chevy chassis that's been copied by other companies now has been copied by one company that has done so well that their product is even outselling Chevy, which is interesting. So it even tells you that the first to the market with the idea isn't necessarily the winner. It's the one who knows how to outfit that idea and bring it to the people. And that the company happens to be called Time Wonderland. I'm not saying that tomorrow they'll still be the largest one, but if you were to look at all these different Chevy chassis, it's just interesting that an Alfa Romeo or a Fiat, one of these smaller companies, is actually outperforming the original chassis that's built in. All of these things are, in my opinion, more of like the intestines of what's being built. What I mean is that I don't think that you're ever going to see DAOs the way we see them now in 5 or 10 years. I just think that they'll be more for the typical bankers that you see now, that banks do this all the time. A really good example of this is that hardly any of us have the ability to even withdraw more than $300 from our account 24 hours a day. And those of us who could only draw 300, we could certainly withdraw more, but it would only probably be if we went down to the bank personally and said, I would like to have my cash, please. Well, the bank is only open from a certain number of hours. And if you've ever wondered why those hours are so much cheaper than the other hours, is one of the reasons why is because that liquidity is guaranteed to them simply by the fact that you're not physically able to get to your bank. So they look at your money when you can't access your money, that's their money. And when they have that much liquidity because they have your money, that is a very, very profitable thing. And you're seeing that now when you start to look at DAOs. I do not recommend DAOs for anybody right now, especially when I know how it feels to lose a third of an ether. It's really awful. But I've been in crypto for maybe 4 or 5 years. And I'm also a computer programmer. I just happen to just feel kind of comfortable in it. I will say that I don't think that I'm doing anything that's rocket science at all. And everything that I've learned, I've just learned from watching others. So I have no secret skills. I have no secret insight or nothing. I have very poor judgment. I think sometimes I am a absolute child when it comes to investing. Last summer, I've never been as poor as I've ever been. And I took everything that I ever had and I just put it in crypto. And all I did was just work on the show. And thank God that the patrons were strong enough, because it's the only thing that kept it going, because I wasn't going to spend any of that crypto. And that was last summer. And that's 10x'd. And that 10x because I never traded. I never traded at all. All I did was just own Bitcoin and own Ethereum. That's all I did. And XRP. Some of you have given me XRP and I've honored the shit out of it. I haven't gone out the door and thrown a third of the Ethernet away. I've honored that and I still have it. I still hold it now. You giving me crypto isn't even giving me cash. It's very rare that I would ever turn crypto into cash. I have the same issue with silver. I trade my silver for books and I've never sold any of my silver. So I don't even consider these things money right now. I do think that crypto is money, but I think that it's more important than money right now. I feel the same way about silver. Some of you, I know who's mailed me this piece of silver, and it's just not worth 20 petrodollars right now. It's you and me, and we're connected, and it's different. Crypto is sort of the same thing. I see that it's still growing. I see that something's still happening there. But sometimes that growth is literally to dissolve away and disappear. And I want you to take this opportunity, if should you take it, and learn to be good at failure. Use the energy of this field because it will take you on a ride and it will be hard. And you will find yourself investing and divesting and investing and divesting in your own beliefs and in your own ideas. And it's a very, very, very futuristic way of looking at your body, to be thinking about these things in currency, to be thinking about these things and the connections you're making. I really do think that the history of we're looking at the history of voting, and that the future of voting will be something more akin to a DAO. I don't mean that it would look like a DAO now, but what I mean is that one thing that everyone inside a DAO has in common is that we share a bond because we believe in the same tokens. I'm under the impression that Brad and I right now, I could be wrong because I don't know what Brad's done, but Brad and I are really into something called time right now. Like we really value our time. It's just one of many projects. What I mean is that Brad and I have sort of a kinship. We have a trauma bond because of what's happened with time. It's a fucking trauma bond. And that I think that these kinds of experiences are not only unavoidable, but I think they're crucially important as we go forward. Because the reason why 4.1 million people lost their job is not because we didn't want them to lose their job. That part of resetting the system, part of entering into a new kind of gear is going to require the people of old to not participate and the people of new to have a space to do it, to have the time and the resources to do it. I am not telling you that I have an optimistic version of the future. I think that the future will look exactly like it's always looked. It will be based on the victimhood and abandonment of all of us as we either embrace or reject the electricity that Prometheus has brought down from the mountain. That happens over and over and over again, whether it's bullets, technology, communication, all of it. That will constantly happen, and you will either survive or you will decide this place is too much. And all that will be based on your posture. So I would hope that these crypto dojos, if they're to go on, if this is even to work, I hope that at the root, I hope that what you mostly bring thought into is how this affects your posture. Because I think the reason why I threw a third of that Ethereum away is because I had bad posture. I really thought that I was focused. I really thought I was paying attention. I would never enter an address manually. I always check the first 4 digits and the last 4 digits. I still don't know what happened. But I know that for the last week, I've been very nervous about finances because I got so excited when the prices dropped. And that's bad. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm learning that lesson too, that if I'm not careful with my posture, I will literally open the door and just destroy a third of ether. The rest of my life as Ethereum goes way up, that will always be ingrained. And my dog wasn't able to take that ether and chew on it, and then I have to keep it. I wished that would have been awesome. It doesn't work that way. So the power that you have is not an illusion. I just proved it. I just proved it. That when you take banking into your own hands, you have the ability to obliterate things. And there's no going back. You can't go to the bank and say, I made a mistake. There's no overdraft. There's none of that. I personally find that beautiful. But people will find that terrifying, and that terror will invent what's called CBDCs. I think that's the right acronym. I might be dyslexic on that, but I'm pretty sure it's CBDCs. Check the chat. Someone will prove my lips. But the terror that people feel when they understand that they can throw away a third of their ether will lead them into a government token. And it will be the very fearful system that so many of us are worried about with blockchain. It will be inside that token. And I see right now that there's a big race, a race to get to the stump, to grab as many of those arrows as you can. And some of you think that the way to win this Thunderdome is to not go to the stump, not collect any of that. And I have no beef with that philosophy. I don't feel that way though. When I see Prometheus, I like that guy. I've always liked him. And I don't think that what he brings is necessarily evil or good. I think it's simply an amplifier for what's inside us. So talking a lot. I need to see some hands, guys. I'm not going to be doing this the whole time. Erica, good to see you. What you got? Thanks for being here, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I bought my first crypto this week. Yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I can see how you could get addicted to it. So it took me a long time because I just fooled around because I don't really understand it at all, right? Like I made like 3 or 4 different wallets on all these different sites. And I couldn't figure out how to buy any crypto still. Like I didn't know what I was doing at all. And then I fooled around on the site that Josh mentioned last week that he set his mom up on. And I got that all set up. And then I was like, oh, but wait a minute, this is American and I'm Canadian. So that's stupid that I would, convert Canadian to American and then back again. So then I found a Canadian site. I don't know if there's any Canadians on here, called BitBuy. That's very similar to the one Josh was talking about. And it's just like sort of like plug and play, right? I just set up like an account and I linked my bank account to it. Yeah, so that's it. Like I've only got a couple, like $150 worth right now, but like I figured it is like gambling, right? Like I'm only gonna really spend, like I was smoking pot, so I quit smoking pot. So like that money that I was just setting on fire, like I can gamble with that, right? Yeah, it's a big learning curve. There's a lot. Like I think I could spend just like weeks just learning. But yeah, that's all. Oh, and just I want to mention that every time I see Johnny B, I think that he should add good to the end of his name. I would, Johnny, go for it.
Yeah, he's definitely earned that. Congrats on Black.
Thanks.
I really, really think that's probably the smartest thing anybody could do. And there's no way that you would buy the right one, that you could buy the wrong one starting out. Seriously, the wrong ones would be really hard to buy right now. Like you'd really have to be working hard to buy a wrong one. Not saying you can't, but I'm saying that if you're just starting out, it's mostly going to be pretty easy to buy the right one. And if you look at it like fun gambling, you're not going to feel devastated when there's a rule about energy. When you put your energy into the very first time you do something, the world is going to test you. It wants to know if you're serious. And so that price will drop. That price will drop as soon as you buy that coin. And as soon as it drops, you instantly feel like, well, what happened? What I was told. And that is part of the process of you learning. It's no different than when you're on your bike for the first time and the training wheels are off. You need to crash. It's very important that you hit that tree before you get good at this, because next thing you know, it'll be a third of an ether. Be a third of an ether. So I think that's definitely the first step for anybody. 20 to 100 to 100, whatever. Take that much money and say, I'm using this for my education. I'm going to learn crypto. And if you don't know which one to buy, just buy Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to find a lot of people that are like, you shouldn't buy Bitcoin. In fact, when you find someone like that, you really need to listen to them and just hear how they render the world, because it'll be fascinating for you to learn. It will. Brad, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I invested in time. It really hurt when the price basically went down in half from when I invested. But the nice thing about it is the APY is still like shot up still. I mean, it hit like 90,000. Excuse me. And with the compounding interest and everything, I honestly think that it will go. With the Avalanche network and everything really taking off, the AVAX token and whatnot. But luckily, I don't have disposable income. So I basically invested what I had already invested in something else previously and then left it in there. And I don't have money to invest in anything. So I'm just leaving it in there. That Coral project looks like it's really awesome because, I really like the energy involved into it. And that's why I got involved in that. But I've been really struggling with, been really focusing on belief in myself and going with my gut on things. And I really share a lot of the same sentiments that Seamus has typed out, where I feel like when I invest all this energy into learning all of this crypto stuff, I feel like it pulls me away from everything else. And I'm struggling to find this balance of how to even look at, like, a lot of times I just want to get rid of computers completely. And I'm just tired of keeping track of 50 different passwords and different accounts and different wallets and all of this shit, when I would much rather be in the forest and build huts and fires and, all of this stuff, right? That I feel like is more real to me and more, it just feels more right, and I don't know how to, I'm not really sure how crypto will be part of my life, if that makes sense. I still feel like it's part of something that I don't really want to be involved in completely. And yet, and I don't know if that's just because I'm holding myself back. I'm not afraid of it. I just don't feel that same drive. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. I also think that's why I'm getting ready to call him Johnny, I swear. I think that's why there's something called investing happening right now, is because that field that you're feeling, Brad, is real, and that everyone feels that field, and that field is going to be based on the amount of energy that you have to even stand in that field, which is why I don't think crypto is going to work for anyone that doesn't have enough plasma to actually put into it. And I don't recommend it for everybody. It's part of why last summer, all I did was just put it in Bitcoin and just focus on the show, because I didn't want to even put the energy into it. I didn't want to lose those calories. I wanted to do it somewhere else. So I think that you're looking at, you're looking at your actual energy body, Brad. Like, how much energy is this, do I have to put into it? Which is why I keep talking about the 40% rule. That if you find yourself putting more than 40% into something, your identity is now not inside you anymore, is it? It's inside that plasma that you're putting into something else, which is why you will end up being more generous with everyone you meet. If you find yourself giving 55%, if you were to pull that back to 40%, you will actually be more generous. You will actually come from a more grounded place, and it will serve them better too. And this is no different. So all this is, we're managing our plasma. And if some of us have enough plasma to get into crypto, this is what happens when they do, right?
Yeah.
This is what it'll be.
Yeah, I've over the last couple of months, especially, I've really felt like my intuition is telling me I really have to focus on myself, that it's really important that I build this base energy for myself first before anything else. And so I've decided that with the crypto thing, I'm just going to let everything ride. Like if if the time just plummets and goes to the ground, I don't care. I put it in, I'm just letting it ride, and I'm focusing completely on myself and my wife and our relationship and all that kind of thing. And everything else is, I just have to put it aside, because it's like you said, I tried to even get into like the DeFi Kingdom or some of the other game type systems they have out there. And when I was doing it, I could literally feel myself being sucked dry. Like I was like, I'm pouring all of this into it, and I just felt more empty and more empty. And I was like, this is wrong. Like I gotta pull away from this, And so that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you.
No, thank you. Johnny, go ahead, my friend.
Thanks. Yeah, I could relate to what Brad was just saying, and but in a weird way, it's very similar to how regular currency works. I know people that just to keep a job with a certain number of, certain paycheck attached to it, they would be willing to line up and subject themselves to vaccines and weekly testing. And I actually, the biggest lesson I've learned in my life is to be self-employed, and it's very challenging. It's not, it oddly needs a lot more energy than with a lot less pay than just submitting to another authority to do, to provide your paycheck and a steady income. So you have to get more creative, and I think crypto kind of plays into that too. If you, and this is why I'm on the fence with all these DAOs, because it sounds tempting. You put your money in and then you have a weekly paycheck of API. In theory, that sounds like a free paycheck, and then you can just go back and do whatever you want in your life. But they won't all do this. It, like, not saying it's a Ponzi scheme, but a lot of them may turn out to be that way. So you have to really focus in and go with your gut on what feels right. And that's what I'm working on right now. My gut called me into crypto in the spring, and at first it was pure rush because the pick I chose, and I put in over 5,000 but under 10, so like a substantial chunk of my savings into it. And at first it doubled, tripled, was like 5 times at one point, but I never sold because I was hoping for more and more. And since then it's been going down and down and down, and oddly enough, it doesn't bother me. It's I know where it's going to be in a couple of years, so I completely disconnected from its currency value. And this may be the same thing with time and with some other ones. Just go with your gut on what's right. But if you start watching the charts daily, it's like a vortex of energy. It will, unless you know exactly how to ride the tornado. And if you do want to learn, the Telegram group, we're getting some good feedback there. There's been quite a few good calls made, but just only put in how much currency you're willing to go with. I don't know if I'm explaining that part, but yeah, like I don't have any attachments to, if the banks tomorrow call me and say you can't have a bank account unless you're vaccinated, I already know which path I'll go. We'll all have to make that choice. So learn to navigate this. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Johnny. I agree too. By the way, I I would never go all in on DAOs, just so you know. Most of my stuff's still in Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin hit and went way down, it didn't phase me at all. I mean, I'm serious, it wasn't even a blip. It wasn't anything. It'd be no different than silver. If you were to tell me the silver price tripled overnight, I'd be like, oh, cool. And you tell me the next day the silver dropped like to 10%, I'd be cool. I don't really look at it like that. That silver is not going anywhere is how I see it. And the same thing with certain cryptos. I think Bitcoin is one of those. So I think that Bitcoin's good because when you go in and you'll watch it drop, that energy will be really good for you, that feeling. And it won't actually hurt you because you only put in enough that you can be willing to let it sit for a year and a half. Like, be willing to let it sit that long. And I think that a lot of people don't understand the difference between something that's risky and something that's volatile. I believe that DAOs are risky and volatile. I believe that Bitcoin is volatile, not risky. I believe that the dollar is, check this out, the dollar is not risky, it's not volatile, and it's deflationary. It's funny how it works that way. That the least risk is actually in the dollar, and that will be the one bet that will definitely lose. You really have no choice. You're seeing that now. A Big Mac was 60 cents. It's insane, and it's only going to get worse. So if you're looking for, I think the volatility is good for your field, and I think that the riskiness is probably bad for your field, which is why Bitcoin is a really good thing just to put money in and say, there you go. Because I do not think that's risky. It's so much not risky that if you could not find anyone else to buy your Bitcoin, I probably would buy it. But I actually, if no one else will buy your Bitcoin, that means no exchange will buy it. So something really strange is happening. We'll have to have that talk. But I've never wanted to sell my Bitcoin. I've just had to sometimes. And I know that feeling is how everyone feels that has it. And keep in mind that Bitcoin is actually being shrunk every day. That every day Bitcoin's being lost, burned, and that even the rate that they're making it is being cut in half every few years. And you've never seen a currency that really exists like that. The closest kind of currency that you've seen that operates like that is your family. It's the only finite currency that I could think of that you have that is becoming finite, which makes you precious, makes you find it precious more. You find family more precious because of the finitude of it. And none of us have seen a currency that has that until Bitcoin. I don't even think gold is that, because we learn to find gold in different places. And as the world grows, we learn to connect with different places that have gold. This is something different. It's very difficult for me to even picture how this could be risky. It will definitely be volatile though. Malcolm, go ahead, my friend.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, but I'm mute, so I can't always say yes. But yeah, go ahead.
Right. I thought I'd bring some a perspective from the UK on this. I've been in crypto for 10 years because I was fortunate enough to receive one free Bitcoin 10 years ago, just because I happened to be around the internet at the time. And I signed up for it and I got one sent to me. It wasn't long before I lost it because I really attached no value to it. And then a couple of years later, I started to see it moving up. All of a sudden it was £10, then it was £20. I thought, what the hell's going on here? And I started looking into it more seriously. And I started buying some. I then got more invested into it, and I'm a 71-year-old, so I'm not very good at this sort of stuff, but I got my son to buy a mining rig with a load of graphic cards, and he set it all up for me. And we didn't need to run the heating in the house because the machinery was making so much heat. But after a while, it became obvious that as much as we were pumping electricity into this mining rig, the only people that were making money were the people selling the graphics cards and the mining people out somewhere in the international scene, because we weren't making any money from it whatsoever. It was a loss for us. So we sold up. I kind of got disheartened about Bitcoin. I sold what I had. I made some profit out, quite significant profit of what we had, but I got out of it and I kind of sat low for a while. However, the interesting thing was about that time, we had in the UK a big political storm going on over withdrawing from the European Union. Now, what was interesting to me was the fact that all the media and the newspapers were going on about how stupid it would be to withdraw from the European Union, and that all the voting would be definitely to stay within the European Union, and you'd be mad if you were to withdraw from the European Union. As you all know, we have withdrawn from the European Union. So at that time, I started doing a lot of research, and I came across people that were talking about the money system in a very, very detailed way. And they were pointing out that the great civilizational shifts in money all come about with the big money, the big capital flows, and where all this capital flow is moving to is what decides where the history is going to go. And one of the things that was coming clear from this was that there was this new coin on the block that had already been decided was going to replace international money, and that was XRP. It had already been decided, and that Brexit was the first brick in the wall to bring down the international money system, to even dismember the European Union, and to totally bring about a decentralized world. Now, when I started learning about all this and reading about this, I thought, this sounds too lovely. It sounds too optimistic. It can't possibly be that all those people that have had running the world, running the money systems, whether they be in Rome or London or Washington or wherever, that they were going to give up their hands of the control of the money system. But the more I read and the more the information was coming across was that this definitely was part and parcel of the decentralization of the international monetary system. It's not to say that we're not going to have big corporations and big nations and things like that. It was just the first huge shift into decentral land, if you like. And I just thought, well, that's so amazing. I'm 71. At long last, we're seeing some decent movement in the world. So I carried on doing more and more research, trying to read papers as best I could. And I got to really understand that the legs of the chairs and the tables were being put in place as everybody was starting to talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum. It was like everybody was, move your eyes over here while we put all this in place behind the back, so to speak. And when I started to look into XRP itself, I started to see that in a way it reflected something James had been saying, that the only way that the world could work is through consensus. And XRP is the only coin that does work through consensus. It works on a federated Byzantine agreement. It's not proof of stake and it's not proof of work. These banks, these international banks, can only get together and work all these nodes by agreeing to do it. Ripple itself only works 5% of the nodes. All the rest, especially if you think the up and coming economies in the world like Korea, Singapore, Japan, they're major investors in XRP and XRP nodes. I think it's amazing what is going on, and I'm very optimistic about what is going on. I don't think it's all going to be honey and roses. I think it's also interesting because at this moment in time, you guys in America can't even buy XRP. You're blocked off from buying XRP because of the SEC court case that's been going on for a year now in Washington. All Coinbase has delisted it. Kraken, I think, has delisted it. You're not allowed to buy XRP. And that kind of tells me there's a reason behind it. They don't want this to be unveiled just yet. They're not ready for it to be put out there. These legs are definitely being put in place, and XRP is definitely going to be a major part of it.
Thank
My
you, Mal.
5 pennies. Sorry.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I think that you're looking at how the system has to and has always worked when you're watching these SEC things. And when you're looking at DAO, at the DAO market, and you're seeing what the word Ponzi scheme, which I have no problem with you calling it that, but I do want you to look a little deeper and realize that those Ponzi schemes is exactly how all of finance has always worked. And there's never once been an exception. It's never not worked that way. And that if you look at the map of I believe it's called derivatives, excuse my ignorance here, but if you actually look at the map of where all the wealth in the world is, it's based on the assumptive commodity trading of wealth, not the actual wealth itself. That at the bottom is the crust where the actual grounds of coffee are, but most of it is fucking cream fluff, promises. That's all it is. And that the entire world's built on top of that, which is part of why I think that so many have their hands tied as we're coming into Aquarius. Like Malcolm's saying, consensus is really the only choice they have because the entire system, it's not like there's a deep state. And if we just cut out this one little evil tumor deep inside the country, everything will be magical. No, that's what we tell ourselves to pretend that it's not that whole system. So when you find that the system is that way, the only way out is consensus. And I don't mean that in a fluffy kind way either. I'm just telling you that that's why you're seeing this thing emerge. Timothy Hopkins, go ahead, my friend.
Hello. So, man, I don't know where to begin. Today's message really resonates with me. I've been on this journey since about 2017 when my wife was pregnant with our second child. And I knew that someday this day would come that I would need to have a plan B in place. And that's what really interested me about crypto at the time. And at that time, you had thought you were late, and it hadn't even been around for 10 years. And so it's been a real learning curve getting there. And today's message really resonates with me because as you know, we've been in a 2-month pullback in this bull market where everybody's sentiment here in December was going to be, we're going to see record highs just like back in 2017. So now we're all, you know, discombobulated, you could say, looking for answers, looking for what do we do next? And nobody knows. We've never seen this before, myself included. And electrically, I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm living between two different reality bubbles. You can see I'm already dressed for work right now because I work for a corporation and I got to go on and play that game, which we all know how that goes. And then at the same time, I work afternoons to have as little exposure to that system as possible. So at this stage, I'm ready to make the transition to exit that reality and just pursue my own, like you say, self-employed route. And with the pullback in the market now, I find myself turning into these DAOs, which recently I got on Tomb Finance. And the reason for that is I saw some advertising last week about it, and some people I follow are invested in the project. And with the riskiness of the space, we're all looking for somebody to influence us and help guide us into some sort of direction. And they're partying on yachts and having fun and making connections over in Dubai. And so they look like they're the captains of their ship, you could say. So I find it funny, the symbolism. I'm just trying to pick up on that everywhere. So that being said, the reason for Tomb Finance's resurgence is a hedge fund manager has now started backing up the project, which is kind of funny because these are the same people we're trying to escape that have corrupted our current system. So now I'm at the pivotal point of, like James said, standing on the edge of the cliff in a lightning storm here, where I'm ready to, upset my 20-year reality of working a job and pivot into being self-employed through the comfort of having some passive income on the back end to help me make the leap. And now we're calling in the people that we're trying to escape to help bail us out, because I believe, like he had said in one of the episodes about billionaires and the way they handle money and handle themselves, electrically, they have the power to manage that kind of money, where we electrically short out with $10,000. We've never seen as many zeros as $1 billion in our account before to even know what to do with it and how to manage it. So I just find that very interesting.
That's actually what I hope most of you guys will do with this opportunity, because so the reason why those people have to come into Tomb Finance is because they're the only ones that know how a vortex works, Timothy. They were there in the old vortex, and they're like, you want some motherfucking magic? And everyone's like, yeah. And they're like, do you want some fucking magic? And everyone's like, yeah. And they're like, do you want some fucking magic? And what do? They believe harder than anyone else around them. And people like you and me see that belief and believe too. So the vortex is the reality bubble itself warping around you. What is Biden doing? But the same thing. I will promise you eternal fucking life if you stick this needle in your arm. I fucking promise you that. Right? What did I say about Bitcoin earlier? It will not go down. I didn't promise you that, but you felt that. You either felt that or you didn't. That either made you more confident with Bitcoin or less. And here's the exercise. The exercise is not to learn who to trust. The exercise is to learn to use your feelings like tongs. What I mean is that when you see someone doing well and they're giving you advice, understand that most of the feelings that you have are based on what you see them doing and where you want to see yourself. You can use those tongs knowing that that's something you're going to see. You're going to automatically really like that idea and remove that from the equation by physically using those feelings to distinguish what is the truth here. What is the nugget of what this guy's saying? Is he saying something wise, or is he simply exercising the belief, sounding the war cry, right? That makes me feel charged too. You will find that the investments that will do you the most will be the ones that came from your root. And the reason why I believe that is because they came from your root, you would be willing to hold on to them when everything else is shitty. Or more importantly, be willing to invest in something when everything else is shitty. This is why this is such a profound psychic experiment. And I can't stress this enough. I'm a child when it comes to investing. But when I look at how this works, the people that are making money are the ones that are going in when no one else believes in something, and they're believing in it first. And what are they doing next? They're holding that belief. And no matter what news comes out, no matter what happens, they sustain it. And the only way you would ever be able to sustain your belief through those winters would be if you were not giving too much of yourself into it. That would have to be the most crucial point. And where I see people messing up the most is that they over leverage their belief. And they're doing this because they were raised in a society that tried to tell you that belief is an infinite resource that you have. You've been told that since you were young, and it's simply not true. That those who believe in crypto will prove it by rendering the time and calories that it requires to believe in it. And those who don't won't. So there's a governor built onto every woman you love or concept you follow or relationship you have. In other words, are you willing to apply the witness and calories necessary to prove, to sacrifice, to whatever, to transact that belief into your life? So I think that you could look at crypto as more of like a karate class that you're taking. I really think that all of you could look at it that way, and that you would find it constructive, not debilitating, and you would find it fun, not tedious. Brad, you seeing the tediousness of crypto, I think is a direct result of how much you're into it, how much belief that you've applied to it, hoping that it will come through. That the lesser amount that you have will be easier to sustain that, and you'll find that it's more profitable. So I'm telling you, come to the CryptoDojo, but what I'm really doing is saying, guys, here's a chiropractic exercise that's going to teach you how to sustain who you are, but also extend your belief into something at the same time, and to never, ever, ever pour too much out. It's the perfect little chamber to practice those things in. And there's 5,000 tokens, so you can do this again and again and again and again. Unless you overextend yourself, then you'll be able to buy 2 lessons, and then that's it. There's no more karate class for you. And that experience itself is also going to teach you, but it'd be great if you could pick that up before you get in, before you get down that road. Timothy, do you have anything else? Your hand's still up?
Yeah, I did want to add one more thing. Like you say about the power of your belief in a certain project. There's one particular project that has resonated with me since day one called Veritasium, and talking about peer-to-peer capital market transactions. And the SEC came after Reggie back in 2019 in August and shut his project down and stole 98 million out of its 100 million tokens. And since then, it's been pretty quiet. But more recently, news broke last week around December 8th. I think I put a link in the chat because I haven't heard it. Nobody else ever talks about him or gives him any credit. And I am curious because I'm not really a computer programmer. That he is saying that he is the inventor of DeFi back in 2013. And his patents have been granted and recognized by the US and Japan. So I'm not sure what this is going to mean for the space. That's where I'm hoping James can give us some insight, since he understands, I guess, how the transactions may work on the back end. But I don't know, you can check the article out. I'd just be curious to see your thoughts on that and see, because this is one of those projects where in the dark times, the fundamentals don't change. The intellectual property never changes, just the price. And that's where I feel like the market has a way of shaking us out and, again, testing our belief in how much we believe in certain things. So that's all.
Well, real quick for me on that, because I know there's other people. I do want to really quick say that one of the things you're seeing with projects like Solana that you're not seeing with projects like Ethereum is an unstoppable system. And a lot of cryptos are doing that, which is why I love crypto so much, because you see a lot of people that already know. The first thing you see out of most tokens is, I don't trust the government. That's literally most of the tokens that are out there that are doing well. That's kind of the base tenet that's built into there. Now, I'm not saying that all of them are doing a good job of not trusting the government, but one of the things that Solana seems to be doing is providing an unstoppable system, right? Once you have the network set up, there's no takebacks. CBDCs will have takebacks. Why? Because they will need that kind of training wheel for the average citizen who accidentally sent a third of their Ethernet to somewhere, stuff like that. There would have to be an arbitrage industry for that. So the entire time you're looking at SEC investigations as false flags. You're looking at false flags of people that are embedded in government that benefit from having government, that know if I can have some school shootings here in crypto, I'm going to have a much better chance of getting everyone to go CBDCs. And I think that ultimately you're going to find that CBDCs are basically like EBT cards now. If you don't know what that means, it's like a food stamp card sort of a thing. It's a card that's issued by the government that has money on it. I think that that's probably the future of what CBDCs are. That's why you've already heard the term universal income, because there's simply people that are not going to be able to fathom or consider or touch this crypto stuff. And they're going to need something else. And that's where that regulation is going to rise out of and try and attack other tokens and other coins. And I can't tell you who's going to win, because you're looking at a true live pirate fight happening in real time. I'm proud of the privacy chains that have come out. I know that people are now talking shit about Monero because Monero got no, fuck you guys. I love Monero because I know that anyone who's invested in Monero believes wholeheartedly that if we stake and pool our money together by owning this token, that we will be doing more than anyone else out there to make sure that our privacy is built into this token. So even when you're seeing certain things fail, like they say, Bitcoin's failing, Lightning Network shows up the next day and fixes it. You're looking at the same things you would look at when they were funding the church. Well, Jesus' twin brother, Thomas, man, we should have him. Shut up. But seriously, here's like a whole scripture about, shut up. You're seeing the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Sorry for going off so long. Johnny, go ahead.
Thanks. I see there's a couple of hands, so I'll just be quick. Two things I want to mention. Number one, it wasn't really a bash at crypto to mention the word Ponzi scheme, because I think most stocks operate this way. And I saw a great article about how pretty much everything starts off as a Ponzi scheme, like say Tesla stocks and whatever, until it gets to a point where the belief of the investors propels it to the next phase. So Tesla will never go broke. They have too much belief in Elon Musk and in Mars and in the future vision that they've created. Same with Apple. Apple could literally create a toaster and ditch the phones. People will still buy the toasters. They surpassed it. And what I mentioned before, I'm getting into trying to figure out how to read charts, and there is certainly magic in that. But another great tool for beginners is to join either the Discord or Telegram groups of the individual projects and just be a fly on the wall and see how the belief is in the people that are holding the project. I've seen projects that I think they're down to one developer and he's been gone for 3 weeks. And so there's no updates on the project whatsoever. But just because everyone is giving it belief and just willing it to go higher, the price keeps climbing. Just get a feel for it. Join those groups. That's partly why I'm so fond on Pirate Chain. The people behind it and the groups behind it are just this project's just gonna go big. It's not its time right now, but same reason why Bitcoin will never go away. I know a lot of people are on the edge because it was supposed to go a very different direction this month, and a lot of people are pointing out that it's on the knife edge of having a big dip or a bear market. But there's too many people that have belief in Bitcoin. I actually have a big chunk in Bitcoin right now, and I was looking at projects trying to see where to move it, and my gut is saying keep it in Bitcoin for a couple more weeks. So we'll see which way I go. But yeah, and just another quick thing, the FOMO aspect, be careful of it. Anytime you get news from a celebrity or someone you follow and they say this is the next big thing, I mean, by the time you hear about it, you probably missed the wave. So just wait for the next wave. There's going to be a lot of waves. Just watch out for the FOMO, which means fear of missing out. I know I have that with DeFi Kingdom right now. I could have got in way, way cheaper than it is now, and it could go higher, but I'm learning how to control that. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah. OG should be a bigger term than it is. Fear of jumping in. What I mean is that I think you're going to find that your best investments are going to be more when you're afraid to jump into something, not when you're afraid you're missing out. You're on the other side of the circuit, is what I'm trying to say. Mephisto, go ahead, my friend. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, James. Hello, everybody at the dojo. At first, maybe it sounds weird because of my German-English mix. I never been in this crypto things. I wasn't a programmer and so on. Okay, I do a lot of stuff with computers and so, but this currency thing, I was more interested in the technology aspect of it. But now in the last month, I've been following a long time, but now since a few months, we're at this crypto topic. And meanwhile, I trust my gut and do the things that I can do, where I'm sure of. And as I'm following your shows and you share your input with us, I have a kind of vision or thought, I think we are in the edge of the fourth industrial revolution now with a slingshot, like a slingshot. We got shot to the future the next time. We had now a last IQ test before, so on. And I think by every industrial revolution, it comes a wave with wealth. The first industrial revolution was construction, then productions in the second, then the computers and so on. And I think the next industrial revolution will be online. And the currency wave will be the crypto thing. And I thought I make an experiment in the last few months. It's actually happened. As I followed the CryptoDojo, I invest 1,000. I'm a classic guy, so I was a boring gambler. When I win, I take the half and make it with the other half, not even more and more and more. And I invested $1,000, a half in Ethereum and a half in Bitcoin, only to watch. Like you said, gold, silver. I am not actually course tube or a daily go on and check the courses and so. That will take in much energy for me and for things I do. It's a long-term investment because I think during this time, the big players will make crashes, to invest, like bank bailout for 100 years and so on. And I put this $1,000, to lose. I will invest. I won't make the Rothschild move when everything crashed down. I will invest. I'm like you, silver. Apartment things I can touch, but you and this dojo give me the electric field to, like you said, to jump in, to lose or win. I don't know. I follow the wave, and I want to thank you and the whole dojo to get me the posture to think. For me, $1,000 is $1,000. It's not. For others, it's not much money. For me, it's half income or even less, but it's enough money. But this dojo gives me the courage to. I dive in and look into, and I want to hear your opinion. Maybe I feel this. I will resonate with our thoughts that will not touch my. Decision that I make. I won't take the $1,000 tomorrow from the account. I leave it there, and I will like you said, the Ponzi schemes and so the schemes and the financial are equal. Even history repeats itself. And I think, okay, maybe here they make the move too. Like you said, Bitcoin won't crush. I think it will, but to rise up again, not to, yeah. And yeah, thank you, James. Thank you, Dojo. That was the last 3 months. Yeah, I'm now a crypto guy. Thank you. And yeah, that's what I want to share my thoughts and where I've been at. And yeah, thank you all. That's from me.
That's awesome. I really have a lot of confidence in that investment, just for what it's worth. The Bitcoin and Ethereum, especially those two, I really just have a lot of confidence in that. And I don't think that they require you investing any calories in it. You can really just, there it is. And now you're done. You can just move on and do other things. And
Yeah.
I did that for an entire year, and all it did was work out for me.
You know what you said, that the Bitcoin and the Ethereum is the gold and silver standard. Then I got looked into it, and it fits, and I feel, yeah, I share this thoughts with you. Thank you. Okay, that's what.
If you look at Bitcoin, will always be a threat to any sort of a state currency, and Ethereum will always be a threat to any kind of state infrastructure. Just so you know how that works. That Ethereum is more of an infrastructure, an intelligence. Bitcoin's more of a gold, more of a stake in value. Trey, go ahead.
Can anyone hear me? Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks for having me here, James. I appreciate it. I sort of just wanted to touch on what you were saying about the CBDCs and what Malcolm was also saying about Ripple or XRP. I'm of a firm belief that Ripple, XRP, if you want, will be one of the main players in the game. And one of my main reasons for that is the fact that it has got a case around it with the SEC. No matter what you'll think about government intervention and things like that, sometimes, and you see it throughout history, government intervention is where things tend to take off. So in going back to what you were saying about the DAOs as well, I was once in Wonderland, Time Wonderland, made a bit of profit off it. As you say, all of these, these rebase tokens, they are very high risk, high reward plays. So for me, it was a quick get in, make a bit of profit, get out, simple as that. But the reason why I had that sort of perception around these sort of DAO tokens and rebase tokens is the lack of regulation. So you spoke about Snowbank. Now I literally watched on the blockchain ledger a whale dumping about $250,000 worth of Snowbank pretty much every day. So I tried to warn some people that I knew were getting into it. Some people, don't want to listen because they see profit. But in the end, it dumped, it rugged, as you said. And that's possible due to the lack of regulation in the space. Now, going back to Ripple, which is, what the SEC are investigating, if you're going to go about, bullish or bearish, the case actually makes me very bullish on not only Ripple, but the whole space the whole space. And that's simply because at this rate, Ripple and XRP will be one of the first projects to actually have regulatory clarity. And from then, I think the sky literally is the limit. A lot of the other projects that don't have regulation around them, I think these are the ones that we'll probably see die out eventually. Now, again, touching back on what Malcolm said, I'm also from the UK, so I've been following this closely. But I'll put it in the chat. If you go to the Digital Pound Foundation, they're actually a private organization that are literally working on developing the adoption of a digital pound. It's pretty self-explanatory. And you'll be surprised, well, you might not be surprised to see that members of, Ripple representatives are actually on the board for the Digital Pound Foundation. So first of all, follow the money, it'll take you quite far. But you really just have to look at a lot of these partnerships and collaborations that are happening. It's not to say it's definitely going to happen, but I mean, it looks pretty likely when you consider things like that. The fact that, you know, that Ripple is probably the largest cryptocurrency organization that is being investigated by government right now. Do I think it, you know, is sort of put in that position, you know, with a motive? Potentially. I do think it's highly likely. Ripple don't seem to be slowing down on their developments and trying to implement real world adoption with banks as well. So, you know, it's looking pretty likely to me. So yeah, I'd say keep an eye out for these things. It's definitely good to look out, you know, the underground, up and coming projects. But I feel like if you really want to look for a safer investment, especially if you're new into the space, I've only been in since June 2020. So I'm fairly new, not a complete beginner. But these are the things that I'm looking at when I'm looking to invest in a project. What are the main collaborators? Are they, again, as much as I'm against government intervention, at some point when it comes to this sort of investment, it probably will benefit us going for the projects that will have or are more likely to get regulatory clarity first. But that's that. I also just wanted to give a bit of insight into my journey into crypto. So as I said, I started around June 2020 last year with absolutely no knowledge in crypto whatsoever. I'm not the most techiest person. I had a friend who was already involved in it, and every day he was harping at me, trying to get me involved. And I said no, purely because I didn't have the belief in it. I didn't understand it. I didn't have belief in it. And all I knew is my fiat pound. And this is also at the time when I just started working from home full time. So I was sitting in my dining room working all day, thinking of another way, because I realized that wasn't going to be it for me. And then one day I just dived in. Luckily, I had the guidance from, you know, like I said, a few friends that have got some skin in the game. So I wasn't completely blind. But the good thing about this whole space is, it's been mentioned before, you've got a lot of groups, Discords and Telegrams, dojos like this, where you can really pick up a lot. But for the people that are, you know, pretty new and maybe a bit skeptical and concerned about getting involved, it's completely warranted. I understand. I'm pretty sure most people here do understand as well. But I'd say treat it sort of like a savings account. That's how I first went into it. Every month I would just put aside an amount of money, as James said, an amount you can afford to lose, that you know, if it went to zero tomorrow, you're not going to lose sleep over it. Invest it into, or put it into your exchange, or whatever you choose to, however you choose to fiat on ramp, as they call it. And you can always put it into a stable coin. You don't have to straight away invest. You can have it there ready for, you know, a good opportunity to come up, something that you've heard about, that you've done your research into. So, for example, this is the first time I've heard about DeFi Kingdom. I am going to go and have a look into it. And I've got some fiat there on the side, in stable coins at the moment. So a lot less volatile than keeping it in Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other sort of token. And it's just there, it's ready. You don't have to rush in. You can always take it back out if you want. So that's sort of what I would sort of say to everyone. Just take your time with it, go at your own journey. It is a matter of belief. So if you don't believe in it, don't put your money into it at the moment. Take your time, ask questions. And another thing I would say is maybe try and look for the things that you're interested in. So gaming is obviously really taking off in the world of crypto. And if gaming is a thing that you're into, look for tokens that really incentivize you to game, or something along those lines. I think that's a pretty easy way of investing at the moment. It allows you to actually maintain that interest as well. But obviously, of course, like I said, don't go flying into anything. Take your time and literally ask questions. The space is so vast, and it's such a tight-knit community of people that are seeking new innovation and stuff. So you're never really alone in this, I've realized. So yeah, that's sort of just what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Trey. It's good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're here with us. I want you guys to make sure that you just hear that James Chu, personally, I actually do not think XRP is a good investment. I do think that XRP could very easily be the new currency of the world. And I also think it probably not a very good investment right now. and just to show you the intricacies of how you can feel here. And I'm not trying to say don't do it. I just want you to know that this is how detailed it is, that when I look on YouTube, I can see how thick the XRP church is. And I know there are parishioners in there that are saying XRP is going to be worth $750,000 per token. And it'll, and they're like, and then all it takes is the SEC. As soon as the SEC drops the case, it's going to be there. And I want you to watch that. I want you to experience that. I want you to take that belief, try it on and see if it feels right, see if it doesn't. And then look at the charts and see that Ripple, anytime it even tries to get to $1, it literally like masochizes itself, that it beats itself down with this. All these robots and whales are running that thing and they're pulling the strings. And for me, it feels more risky than anything else because you're at the mercy of the SEC right now. Meanwhile, projects like Solana are being built, which is exactly doing, just like the DAOs had, the Chevy was outcompeted by Winnebago. The same thing is probably happening right now with Ripple and SOL, but I could be wrong. The SEC case could have dropped 3 minutes ago, and the 2,500 Ripple tokens that someone gave me would then be worth a lot. So hear how weird it is. I own Ripple, and I'm still telling you, it'll probably be the next currency internationally. And I'm still telling you, I don't think it's a good investment. And I very easily could be wrong. So I'm not even saying don't do it. I'm just saying that this is how intricate and complex it gets, with the exception of Bitcoin. It's about the one thing you buy that, unless you're looking for some nuanced critic that's like, oh, I hate all contemporary art. Unless you find that guy, it's going to be really hard to find someone to disagree with you about Bitcoin itself. So if you're just starting out, is all I'm trying to say, you might be better off just staying with the Bitcoin, feeling what that feels like for a few months, and then just using this time to learn, to go, I'm considering going into XRP, and then listen to all the different stuff you can hear, because it's so crazy out there. And by the way, if you buy XRP, you and I will be buds because we both own XRP. So it's not even me telling you not to. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how complex it is. Trey, is your hand still up or is this a new one? Okay, Malcolm, go ahead. If Trey comes back, we'll grab him too. Go ahead, Malcolm.
Okay. Obviously, I'm picking up on what Trey said and listening to what you're saying, James, as well. But I come back to what I initially thought, and it revolves around the fact that we are moving into a consensus system. And that consensus relies on all or the majority of the big banks and the central banks of the world cooperating with one another on the Ripple ledger. Now, the thing with Ethereum, which I do not think is going to go away, which I have some Ethereum, and there are many, many good projects out there that use the Ethereum virtual machine, Solana and Avalanche and projects like that. I don't think Ethereum's going to go away, but initially Ethereum was started by Vitalik Buterin and Joe Lubin with JP Morgan, just JP Morgan, not any other bank. And Vitalik Buterin is right now in Argentina proselytizing Ethereum around South America as a guest of JP Morgan. So I'm saying to you, yes, by all means invest in Ethereum. You'll probably make some money out of it. But Ethereum is not going to be the one. Eventually, it will be Ripple. That's just my thought. Now, having said that, I have invested substantially in Ripple, and I have received airdrops as a result of that. And I think this ties into this whole idea of we're moving into a decentralized world where we're actually going to be not in scarcity anymore. As you say, James, we are going to move into a world, I've forgotten the word, I'm too old to repeat it. You could probably tell me it. It's no longer scarcity, it's the other one, if you understand me. And this airdrop that I got 3 months ago from being an investor in Ripple is something called Songbird. And it is that is a side chain of Ripple, that it is built on an Ethereum virtual machine and is running on the Avalanche network. This is how tied together everything is nowadays. And on this Songbird network, I received a lot of tokens. I can now stake them, delegate them, use them for farming and yielding, just like I do on Wonderland, and they're giving me a return. And this is a test network for what is coming in the first quarter of 2022, which is Flare Finance, which is the Flare network, which is going to be running Bitcoin and Litecoin and Doge and Algorand, all on a Ripple sidechain. So this stuff is so joined together. I hear what you're saying, James, and I don't want to say that you're wrong, because I daren't do that, but I do believe that there's no question about it. Ripple is going to be the one. That's my 10 pennies worth.
Well, I think you should say I'm wrong. I can take it, and I have a track record to prove that there's a reason to invest in thinking that I'm wrong. So just wanted to point that out for sure. Thank you.
I don't want to, because I've been following you for 2 years, and I've been very remiss in thanking you as much as I should do, because some of the stuff you come along with has just been absolutely brilliant. But on this one, I agree with you. We're moving into a world of decentralization and abundance. And this is part of the movement. Sorry.
I agree. I think that the only way the petrodollar would work is in a scarcity economy, and that the only way crypto would work is in an abundance economy. And you're literally watching that. And that economy needs people like you to build it. Like the oversight that Trey's speaking to, that's called governance. And literally that's built into the money now. That Ethereum, this is what I told you when I said that Ethereum is more of the infrastructure while Bitcoin's the gold, that Ethereum allows something called governance built into their token, where literally every single person that holds a certain token can be called to vote. And if it's a unanimous government, now you have a fully consenting currency that says all of us must agree to do this or to do this or to do this, and then we will change. And you're watching tokens doing that right now. Time Wonderland right now is doing that. They're saying, I think we should take over this exchange called Sushi Swap. Now a token is telling you that they're going to take over an exchange. That's a big deal. You're watching the power of belief vortex together in roughly just under $1 billion. It's like, what, $800 million in the treasury of time right now, that all that money is able to distribute rewards to everyone that holds tokens, A, and B, they've gotten it so much where right now they're going, hey, how would you guys feel if we took over Sushi Swap? And now everyone that owns the token would get to either approve or not approve that. So governance itself is even built into this money, which is why you'll find that by you picking projects, you're sort of entering into a little tribe, a tribe of token holders that hold the same belief about something. We've got 1 minute left. There's 2 hands up, and I'm sorry for talking so long. I do, before we in fact, it's 2 o'clock. I should probably just cut it off, but really quick, please send Melanie your feedback on this CryptoDojo. If you liked it, if you want to see more. In fact, if you guys want to see where once a week, there's almost like a class, like a different topic is explained to you in the way that I explain things, that would be something that I think that we could maybe put together too as an option. I'm more than happy. I think Melanie, I should actually say this is Melanie. Melanie's the one who does all the work producing these things. But I would think that if you guys have sent Melanie enough feedback that you really want to have like a weekly crypto dojo, not the class, but just the dojo itself, I bet she would go for that too. So I'm just saying that now's a good time maybe to just kind of give your feedback about what you'd like to see, what you don't want to see. Maybe you guys would rather just stop talking about crypto too. So please let Melanie know that, because she's always looking at creating more things that enrich the tribe. So thank you guys so much for coming today. It's great feedback. I really love that we each have different thoughts about things, including XRP, Malcolm. In fact, I wish that we could talk more depth about what the Ethereum chain does, and more importantly, why ETC started. That, believe it or not, a theft took place a long time ago inside of Ethereum, which caused an entire new cryptocurrency to be born. And that if you guys understood exactly how that happened and how it worked, I think you'd understand more about where the risks are, but more importantly, where the risks are not when you're looking at these contracts and how they work. So anyway, thank you all. Please unmute. Let's call it a day. And yeah, I've got some staking to do on my own. So tink you.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, and
Thanks, guys.
goodbye.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate your time.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later. Bye bye.